by now you have seen our most recent video on pistol braces, and these evil, dastardly little devices have caused quite the turmoil in our comment section. I would be lying to you guys if I didn't say that I knew that the moment that we posted that video that we would get trolled pretty hard in the comment section for a couple different reasons. But the video largely did exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted to teach you guys some of the background of this pistol brace ruling. I also wanted to teach you why it was different than previously purchasing an NFA weapon and having that inside of your arsenal. And there's a lot of different things going on, and there are thousands upon thousands of comments in the comment section of that video. So the objective for this particular video today is Brenton and I are going to be diving into a handful of these comments. Now, this is not all encompassing. Obviously, I can't sit here and respond to like 3,000 comments. However, we're going to grab a handful of recurring comments or themes of comments that we've seen. We're going to talk about them, and I'm hoping that if you watch the initial video, that you'll watch this video, and maybe I can provide a little bit more insight into our position as a company, why we do the things that we do, how we are changing culture, and also why some of the idiots in the comment section should just be absolutely ignored at all costs, and they are probably fed implants no matter what. So, Brenton, hit me with the first round of questions.
Well, as I was reading them, I think I learned something about you, Jared. So apparently you're a Fed Boi. That's what they told me. You were a Fed Boi because we have an SOT. So you are part of the Fed. Not me. That's just the comments.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
You know, it's really deep when people say that and then they have no better, like they don't even have the trajectory to understand why we would have the SOT. So I'll explain it to you. Now, first off, I do want to tell you guys, I don't have to explain anything to anybody. This is a free country, and we're operating our business within what we deem are the left and right boundaries. But yes, we are an 07, 02 SOT. So what that means is we're an 07 FFL. That's a manufacturer FFL license. We're an 02 SOT. That is a special occupation tax. So what that means is I pay something like $1,500 a year to be able to have some extra functions on some of our weapons, like this 16-inch over here that I'm able to flip a giggle switch on. So no, those are not simulated select fire weapons. Those are not drop-in auto sears. Those are not anything that some people were guessing. They're not force reset triggers or anything like that. That is a M16 second sear. I drilled a hole in this receiver, dropped it down in. I'm running a Geisley SSF trigger. So the question is, as a company with an 07, 02, how can I stand here and say what, and I'm responding to this comment right now because these comments are insinuating that I'm telling you guys to go completely disobey with what the ATF is saying, while on the flip side, on the surface level, I'm an 07, 02. And I understand some of the premise of that, but I also want you guys to think a little bit deeper. One, at the end of the video, I said specifically, people expect us to fight the battle for them. So let me explain where I'm at in my life. I currently own a multi-million-dollar business that employs a pile of different people, and it also supports a bunch of different people in surrounding industries. I am relied upon by my team to come to work and be free enough to run this business, to grow this business, to do my job within this business. So when you say to me that I have to, on camera, on YouTube, take one of my weapons, make it a illegal machine gun, which between you and me, I don't think that that term is ever relevant. I don't think you can have an illegal machine gun. But in the eyes of the ATF and the Fed boys that'll troll the comment section, they will deem that I have an illegal machine gun. You're telling me to take your job, your duty as an American citizen, bear full responsibility on my shoulders, and then when they try to come and make an example out of me, you want me to do one of two things. One, get in a shootout with them and die in a valiant blaze of glory, or two, get arrested for your lack of initiative. Neither one of them are fair for the team that I have been blessed to have here at TA Targets, at the Exodus companies. It also isn't fair to all of the other surrounding industries that we support, and it would be pretty stupid of me to get on camera and admit that I have a quote-unquote illegal machine gun. So what the 0702 allows me to do is educate you guys on these unconstitutional, illegal laws that exist in our country. Now, on a personal level, how I operate in my personal life, you will never know. And I will never tell you that unless you are in my close, tight-knit circle, because I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. I'm not like some of you in the comments that feel like if you were in my position, you would just on camera drill a third hole, drop an auto sear in, and run an illegal machine gun. That would be very, 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 very stupid of you, because you will be made an example of. Look, I don't agree with much of the federal law enforcement that exists in this world, in our country today. And because of that, you have to be smarter than them. It would be like you knowing you're doing some illegal activity and then broadcasting it to the federal law enforcement agencies that would come and arrest you and throw you in a dark hole. That would be pretty stupid. From a strategy level, that's like strategy level -1000. Like, that is the worst strategy. And also, if I could do a really good Trump voice, I would right now. It would be the worst strategy level ever. I'm not good at Donald Trump voices, but you understand what I'm saying. So I know that doesn't answer it for everybody. Some of you are going to say, well, how dare you? How dare you get up on cameras in 0702 and run a select fire build and throw a stock on it and do these things, and you think that makes me a hypocrite? When what it is, I'm taking an extra burden, extra scrutiny. Just about, what was it, Brenton? Like 3 months ago, we had the ATF knock on our door here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have the honor of having the ATF show up at our freaking shop and tear apart our crap to teach you guys about machine guns, when if I didn't have this business between you and me, I know what I would be doing. And I wouldn't be broadcasting things on the internet. But because I have a deep desire to impact the culture around us, I will do certain things strategically so that I can freely talk to you guys about these different weapons and why we do what we do, and how the ATF should just be disbanded, how the NFA is unconstitutional, how in 68 we passed gun control that shouldn't even be in existence. We shouldn't have serial numbers on firearms unless it's for QC reasons from the manufacturer. And we definitely shouldn't have had the Hughes Amendment, which is what is effectively making it impossible for you guys to build new machine guns. But I digress. The last point I want to make is it's very different with what the ATF is doing right now versus in the past. So back in around 2015, I built this 7.5-inch 300 blackout SBR. This was a Form 1 firearm that I built. This is a registered SBR. And I did that, and I hated doing it. But I did it, and I used my pages and my channels to educate people about SBRs, and I have impacted literally hundreds of thousands of people because I stuck my neck out, paid the tax, got fingerprinted. All of the unconstitutional BS that went into me having this SBR Form 1 so that I could educate people around me. Do I like it? No. I think that it's absolutely ludicrous in this country that I have to do any of that. I think I should be able to roll down to Costco, walk out with a freaking RPK over the counter with no paperwork. I believe that's where we're going to head in our country, but in order to do that properly, we have to be smart. You can't be stupid and lead a movement. So I know that's not going to appease some of you, but keep in mind, a lot of those comments are bots, Fed Bois, probably a few angry ATF agents, and possibly, I'm not even going to say it because I'll get deleted from the internet. Onward.
Good answer. Okay. So Corey Smith asks, so is this rule they made up meaning you have to pay a tax stamp on any SBR or just the ones with the brace? Can you just add a stock to an SBR and be good? Trying to understand better.
Yeah, so there's a lot of gray area in this, and part of my problem with this is the ATF hasn't truly clarified at what point does putting this item on a gun equate to a quote-unquote short-barreled rifle. And I believe they've done that intentionally. They want to make it intentionally vague so that you have the burden of deciding for yourself whether or not you possess an SBR or whether or not you possess a pistol. Pretty crappy, right? Yeah, well, that's intentional, because the more confusing it is, the more legal jargon that there is, the harder it is for you to stay in the right. And I believe for far too long, we have fallen under the term law-abiding gun owners. There's a time and place to not be law-abiding, and they may force your hand in this, and you will not know until they determine for you that you are outside of the bounds. It's kind of like when you file your taxes for the federal government at the end of the year, where they're like, hey, you need to pay your taxes. And then we're over here like, hey, can you tell us how much in taxes I'll pay? And they'll be like, no, that's your job. And they're like, well, what? And you're like, well, what if I get it wrong? And they're like, oh, well, we'll just fine you or shoot you. I mean, just get it right the first time. It's not that hard, right? So that's what they're doing here with these pistol braces. So to answer your question, I can't answer your question. And that's kind of the beauty and also the pain in this whole situation. Beauty, because I believe that this is what's going to get this entire thing thrown out, because it's extremely intentionally vague and it's extremely burdensome for our people to adhere to it. But the long and the short of it is, if you have a firearm currently with a barrel length less than 16 inches and it has a pistol brace on it, more than likely the ATF, if they would find out about it, if for some reason you were on their radar, kind of going back to the whole post and media thing and blatantly disobeying on camera, you might find that you are technically in possession of an SBR. Now, the problem with this is the fact that in order to quote unquote comply, they are waiving a tax. They're saying you have to file a Form 1. There's a lot of question around whether or not the ATF can even has the authority to waive that tax, which technically they do not. So what they're doing is unlawful when they say you don't have to pay the $200 tax stamp. And on top of that, they're going to say that they're going to try to process potentially tens of millions of background checks in a 120-day period. And there's been many lawyers that have come out and waved the red flag, saying that within that background check period of a Form 1, you have 88 days to pass your background check. And if you do not, it will be returned as a declined Form 1 or denied Form 1. And then you are now you have admitted to possessing an illegal SBR. At that point, you've given them all the details of the gun, the serial number, the caliber, the color, the barrel length, all of that stuff. You've also submitted fingerprints, your photographs, and you've probably done this through an individual Form 1 rather than a trust, because you don't have time to set up a trust, and you also weren't planning on the legal fees incurred by said trust. So it's kind of a crappy situation, and it's very fluid. Anyway, Brenton, what's the next one?
All right, so Kevin asks, this is kind of similar to the last one, but what if you purchased the gun from a manufacturer with the brace and didn't alter it?
That kind of goes back to that first question where we don't know. And I can't even give a good answer for it because we don't know. My gut would say, like, if I'm looking at this from my own personal lens, my answer to that is I would assume for myself that the ATF is going to think that it's an SBR, no matter what. They're going to, the whole reasoning for this is the ATF has put pistol braces, they've approved them, and because of this, it has put pistol braces into the market in what I would determine as common use. And so that gets to a very interesting point with our current case law and some of the Supreme Court rulings that we've just had. It'll be very interesting to find out how that goes. Next one.
All right. Paul says, not a fan of government overregulation, but I still wonder why people want short ARs or braces. Why do they do better than a normal AR and a pistol of your choice?
Yeah, so the reality is, a lot of people forget this. From 94 to 2004, we had an assault weapons ban in this country under the Clinton administration. So from that period, there's 10 years until the whole sunset clause went into effect in 2004, you couldn't even buy the weapons that we have today. We had a federal assault weapons ban in the United States of America, or I should say the faux Republic of America. After that lapsed, the gun industry boomed, and the technology and all of the rapid proliferation that occurred of AR-15s and similar platforms led to many, and I'm saying many different advancements in the firearms world. One of them was pistol braces. And what happened from the pistol brace thing was an intention to offer someone with a handicap an ability to shoot one-handed, or honestly anybody to be able to shoot a shorter AR-15 platform or an AK platform or whatever it is with a one-handed hold on the firearm itself. And obviously it evolved much further than that. But the reality is having a short rifle is no different than having a long rifle. You are equally entitled to a short rifle as you are a long rifle or a long shotgun gun or a 40 millimeter grenade launcher or whatever it might be. You are entitled to all of these things in this country because you are an American. So barrel length doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the conversation of what your rights are as a human. And we fell into the trap in 1934 of allowing the federal government to say, ooh, short gun with barrel like this right here, scary, very scary. This gun can be concealed. It can be hidden on your body. Ooh, boogeyman. But what people don't realize about the NFA is the original intention was to actually outright ban pistols, not even rifles. Rifles weren't even a part of the conversation. It was all about pistols. And then some concessions were made where pistols were allowed to remain legal, but suppressors and weapons with barrel lengths less than 16 inches for rifles or centerfire cartridges, or shotguns with barrel lengths less than 18 inches or overall lengths less than 26 inches were deemed as evil because we had crime in inner cities from gangsters running things like Tommy guns and other crazy stuff. The ironic thing is, if you look back at crime statistics of that day, some of these cities have worse crime now, and it's by gangbangers with high points and Glocks and stuff that they steal from gun stores and straw purchased weapons. The grandest irony is gun control doesn't work, but yeah. So we all knew that. We're here. We're sitting here. We know gun control doesn't work. Next question.
All right. So this is kind of an opinion segment. A lot of people were kind of wanting solutions on what to do. And I would say around 20 or more people brought up the fact of doing an open carry march.
Yeah.
For the rights. What do you think about that?
So I've been a part of open carry. Should say not been a part. People are going to like connect me with some weird, like up in the mountains.
You're part of a militia.
I saw one of them freaking militias over here. So bad. I've been to different marches of gun rights advocates. The problem that I have is most people that claim to be gun rights advocates are very poorly trained with firearms. They don't know how to handle themselves professionally in kit or with firearms, and they don't present themselves well at all. So like news media outlets can just have a heyday. They're just able to absolutely butcher your movement. So would I be all for an open carry march? I don't know. I mean, is that the most effective thing to do? Yeah, we saw some examples of that in Virginia in the recent years when they were trying to outright ban what they claim are assault weapons at the state level. And we saw hundreds, if not thousands of people with arms showing up at the Capitol. And what I noticed from that is we didn't see like threepers showing up. We didn't see like the dudes that have like Uncle Mike's holsters with pistols falling out and pants that aren't even held up and like just crappy old military uniform. Like we just didn't see that. You saw a more professional level of people. And yeah, sure, there were some of the goon squads and all the Hawaiian shirts and stuff and some cringy things, but largely people that showed up from what I saw in the media looked more professional than unprofessional. So could that help us? Yes. Could it hurt us? Maybe. I don't really care because I don't care what they think about our gun rights.
All right. So Chris had this long comment, and it was actually really good about what we need to do in our country. But Dave underneath said, LOL, they're not taking away your right to own firearms. They're just closing the SBR loophole that started in 2012.
So the biggest problem that I have with people seeing this as an SBR loophole is who opened this quote unquote loophole? The ATF. The ATF was the one in 2012 that said, hey, this accessory is not a stock. You got to keep that in mind, guys. Think critically here. A company made a brace, and that company wanted to know from the ATF, is this legal as a braced firearm? That is an innocent thing to do. Present this to the ATF, say, hey, what about this thing? ATF comes back and says, yeah, that's not a stock. Its primary purpose is to strap on your arm. We see that. And it doesn't make the gun into an SBR or a short-barreled shotgun if you have a shotgun. So who opened this quote-unquote loophole? It was the ATF, but the reality is it's not a loophole because the intention of this is to be wrapped around your arm. So I don't buy into this whole loophole thing. And on top of that, they are taking away your rights because not only did they change their mind, they did a bait and switch, but then they also had regulated arms from the beginning that are entitled to you as an American. So you have to keep in mind that this is a very complex thing, and it started back in the 30s. This isn't new. The government has effectively trapped us by saying these are legal. Now they have allowed these to be proliferated to the masses. And so when those of us who actually give a rip about freedom and liberty are now saying, yeah, you know what, we're not going to play ball with that. We're either going to keep the braces on or we're just going to slap stocks on our stuff and run it. It's because we have been abused by this government for far too long. And when they pull bait and switch maneuvers like this, not only is it unethical, from the beginning, there should not be a term called SBR or SBS or AOW. Those terms shouldn't exist in a free country. So yeah, it's not a loophole. They are not SBRs because the definition of an SBR, it cannot be met with a brace. They're playing a legal jargon game and forcing a definition on us. Next one.
Yeah, so then Chris H. Has a comment that I think a lot of people are struggling with right now. They say, overt noncompliance is obviously the most principled path forward on this topic. However, I have a family to support and I can't afford a felony charge and or conviction. I haven't decided what to do yet. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months.
If I could list out on one hand, well, it'd actually be 100,000 hands, the amount of people I know that roll around with illegal SBRs every single day, it's absurd. It's crazy. Like the federal government thinks that people are just going to bend over and obey, but the reality is there's only a few thousand ATF agents. So what can you do if you decide to do noncompliance, what could you do to defend against that? Well, one thing that I put in the video, I also talked about on my personal Instagram, you can be reaching out to your sheriff. You can be making sure that your sheriff takes his oath seriously. You can do the same thing with your chiefs of police. I'm not saying that every single one will agree with you and will stand up for your rights, but you will be surprised how many of them will. You can reach out to your mayors. You can reach out to your legislature. You can reach out to all of your representatives. Now, again, I know that seems like a cop-out because at the end of the day, the Second Amendment is about being able to fight the people that are going to come and take your guns. It is literally about being able to get into gun battles with people that are going to take firearms from you because we know that one step beyond taking firearms is slavery. So we have to be smart. I understand. I have kids at home as well. We all have families. We all have something to lose. The founders of this nation had everything to lose, just like you and I have. But the reality is we have to make some strategic choices. We have to play chess with the Republic. And the first, most easy thing that you could possibly do is make sure your sheriffs, your local departments, and everybody in between is with you. Because what's going to happen is the ATF will send one or two agents out to do a no-knock on somebody because they believe that they have a pistol brace or what have you. They'll send a couple agents out. They normally piggyback off of federal or state law enforcement to execute those different warrants or whatever else they're trying to do. If you can have 0 police departments willing to effectively back the ATF up in confiscations or seizures or deliverances of warrants, you take away their power to even enforce that. You could go one step further. There's plenty of states that say that if there's a federal agent within the state that enforces an unconstitutional federal law, they can be tried and charged. Now, has that ever happened in case law? I'm not sure. But the reality is you've got a voice. You have technology in your pocket, in your hand that can allow you to reach people. You can impact the world around you. And better yet, frickin' support companies like ours. If you aren't going to do anything else, get on our website and look at some of our products and purchase something. I know that sounds like a shameless plug, but again, I said it in the video, most people are unwilling to do the legwork. And if that's you, and I'm not saying that the commenter is the one that is that person, but if that's you and you're scared to stand up, the very least thing you could do is support companies like ours who are actually fighting the fight. And everybody wants to send their money to Ukraine. Everybody wants to support all these foreign wars that we keep getting ourselves into. But when the crap hits the fan here at home, we're lazy. We're undisciplined. So keep that in mind. There's a lot that you can do. You are not small on your own.
Yeah, and not only did I realize that you're a Fed Boi, I also realized that this whole pistol brace thing was our fault, apparently. So we have a commenter, Philip here says, YouTubers like yourself provide the ATF with all the video evidence they need to make and enforce this rule. Too late now.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was kind of on us.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Our bad, I guess.
Interesting.
It happens.
I'm saying interesting because every time I think someone's an idiot, the only thing I say is interesting. So if you're in the comment section, you see a bunch of interesting, it means I think you're dumb.
You're probably an idiot.
So next question.
All right. Arthur says, the reason gun accessories are designed and innovated on is because of the ATF. For every law, a new device will be designed that is not covered by the law. Someone can invent a shoulder strap and connect it via QD connector that once extended becomes rigid. No limit to an innovative mind. So is this really a good mindset to have with the ATF?
I think that I'm all for creativity. I think that if people are going to get creative with ways to equip more Americans, I think that is generally speaking a good thing. But one must look no further than California compliant rifles to realize that there is also a boundary to this. There's a left and right boundary, guys. At some point, you are just having politicians walk all over you. You are licking their boots, as you saw with our little dank memes that popped into this video. At some point, you got to stand up. At some point, you either have to be blatantly non-compliant, you have to change the laws around you. That's another option. It's the long, hard road. I would say that the changing the legislative aspect of it is nearly impossible, and it has been created. Let me put it this way. Our republic has been restructured in a way that makes it almost impossible for us to actually return our rights back without eventually getting into some use of force or having massive non-compliance. The game has been largely rigged, and I know a lot of my friends will be like, no, you still have a voice, you still can vote. But the problem is everything around our system is absolutely rigged and destroyed at this point, and you can't trust any of it. That doesn't mean you don't try to work within the system. I think that's the way that we go. But ultimately, the cards are in some ways stacked against us. I'm not against innovation at all. I'm not against it. But I think we should be asking ourselves, why are we even allowing that to occur? Why are we even letting the situation come to fruition where we have to have a brace on our arm or some whatever that guy was describing? I think that we've just let it go too far.
Yeah. So I want to leave you with this last comment. Josh R. says, tyranny isn't a maybe someday proposition anymore.
The reality is tyranny existed quite literally months and years after the foundation of the Republic. I know a lot of people like to point to the Whiskey Rebellion and Shays Rebellion, and some of my close friends like to use that as an example of how the government is justified in quelching and, putting out the fires of rebellion. But I would look at that as a step further. Those are both examples of taxation and abuse of the citizens, where the citizens rose up and ultimately, I'd have to refresh myself, but I'm pretty sure all the charges of both of those different rebellions were dropped. So I don't feel like that there is justification for the federal government overreaching, but I will say tyranny has existed since the beginning. Ever since Western expansion, we've had tyranny. All throughout the history of the United States, there's tyranny. The history of the globe, there's tyranny. It just comes down to what level of tyranny will our people stomach. What level of abuses will we allow to occur before we just simply say, no more, I'm not interested in it anymore? And I look at it from, let me put it this way. Let's play the mass non-compliance game out for what it is. So let's just say that every single one of us, couple 100 million gun owners, vocally said, I'm not playing ball with this right now. I'm just not interested. The reality is, yes, somebody will be made an example of. And how the community reacts after that will determine whether or not that mass non-compliance would work, or whether or not it would just get completely squashed in the moment. And that just comes down to the fortitude of the people. It also depends on how strategic we have been up until that point. Have we created alliances with representatives? Have we structured the court system properly to be able to throw out cases like this pistol brace ban that we're currently fighting through? There's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of questions, and a lot of it should be soul searching that we're doing with ourselves, because the reality is the foundational principle of America is we are free here. We have individual liberty, individual sovereignty here in this nation. And because of that, we have a responsibility to make sure we ensure that that is never, ever taken for granted. But what we have created is a system where we try to create laws to dictate the actions of man. And I said this in the other video of pistol braces. Laws are not meant or should not be intended to try to control people. Our morals, our ethics, our compass, the soul and the heartbeat of who we are as people, good people in this country, should dictate our actions. We don't need 50,000 laws on the federal register to know how to act. You could have no laws in this country, and if you're a good, decent, moral human, you will act in a way according to those ethics. That's not a radical statement. That's just a reality. That's natural law. Natural law says, we're pack animals, literally, as humans. We travel in packs. We create communities. One community attacks another community unjustly. That community retaliates, wipes out the other community. Same thing if you're attacked. Natural law says, hey, if someone's trying to kill you, you have the right and should have the ability to just snuff them out real quick, just like erase them from existence, because they have jeopardized your individual sovereignty and liberty. But when we have quite literally made lawmakers hundreds of millions of dollars so they can just sit there and write laws that try to dictate us. Now we have this dictating culture where we just try to control people by laws. Think about it with gun laws. We have laws that already say murder's illegal. So my question, and I get pushback from my friends who are officers, and I call BS every single time. They believe you cannot have a society without gun laws. And I say gun laws are redundant. There's no need. There's absolutely no need for a gun law. Go rob a store with a gun. It's not robbery or armed robbery. It's just freaking robbery. You robbed somebody. Doesn't matter what weapon you used. You should still get thrown in a hole. And the reason we have the law is so that we can measure the action against the rights that have been violated. If somebody murders somebody else, I don't care if it's with a freaking Uzi or with a single shot 22. There's no bearing on the outcome of that. It's still somebody stealing somebody else's liberty. We need to just take back this culture, and we need to start first with personal responsibility and discipline. Tyranny has always existed. It will always exist. There will always be people that will want to control you and work you for their means. That's not going to change. But what can change is our people can become more excellent. We can become more formidable. We can become defiant at times, where we just outright say, no, we are not going to do this. We're not going down this path. I'm not willing to allow you to take that move. And for anybody questioning where my company stands, just remember back during COVID, how they mandated that we should vaccinate our entire team because we fell underneath the vaccine mandate. And I absolutely refused to do so. When they were telling us we were non-essential, we stayed open. We refused all of those orders at great risk. I mean, we've got D60s and machine guns. I wasn't really that worried about it, to be honest. But at risk to ourselves, we said, here's a finger, you can choke on it, because we're not interested in playing ball with you. Get a freaking spine in this country. Start standing up for what's right. Yes, let's build our systems better. I'm not advocating that we just create an anarchist state. I don't think that that's the way that this republic needs to go. I do think that our republic is the best example of governance by people in the world, but it's still freaking broken. And in order to take it back, we need to make some radical changes. So, is that it for the questions?
Yep, that is it.
So guys, I hope that clarifies our position on the pistol brace stance. Hopefully the questions kind of answered where you're headed. I know that it's not all the questions. I cannot possibly answer all of them. The one thing to leave you guys with, as always, I don't really know that I can tell you what to do for yourself. You have to make decisions for yourself as a free person. Ultimately, we each have a level of risk that we can tolerate. Some of us, yes, we can go out and go blatantly non-comply with the orders, and some people will. You will see that happen in our country. And you could see some people arrested for that too, depending on how this pistol brace ruling goes. But for those that cannot do that, that have families, yes, you are responsible to take care of your family, your kids, your wife. You are responsible to provide. And I would never advocate for someone to go out and recklessly abandon their family, get arrested and thrown in jail for 10 years. That would be a foolish move. Some of you could go out and form some SBRs. I know you're going to say hypocrite, hypocrite, hypocrite. But the reality is you can form an SBR and then post whatever you want and educate people and not have to worry about the ATF kicking your door down at this time because you have followed their rules for play. But if you do that, you damn well better go out and educate people about it. If you get a suppressor, you better educate people about it. Take it seriously. There is a difference between what the ATF is doing and also previously filing tax stamps for educational purposes. But guys, ultimately, if you want the culture to change, if you want to see a better republic, that's on you. It's not just on us, it's on you. But if you fall into that category of people who can't risk it all, won't risk it all, or maybe you're just scared of what to do right now, again, I would just ask, hit the links in our description, consider purchasing some products from our company so that we can support the companies and the organizations that are fighting the good fight, and we can continue to put out this content that ultimately will change culture for the better. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you in the next one.
Hey, you kind of forgot a big part of this.
What are you talking about?
Forgot your lines.
My lines?
Yeah, your lines.
We said we didn't need lines.
Remember, we're going to talk about at the end. I
talked about the braces.
Yeah, no, after the braces. This is like our own little section after the braces.
I don't remember.
We spent like 5 minutes talking about this before we started.
Oh, this is one of those situations where you prepped me. I didn't do my part.
Correct.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. What am I supposed to do again?
Look down.
I know I have a little bit of a belly, but it's not that. Okay, guys, joking aside, I did want to talk about the apparel. We do have apparel on our website, exoduscompanies.com. If you want to represent a shift in culture, you want to speak out and you want to literally wear a message of freedom, but you don't want to necessarily have a rifle across your chest, because we all know that's what the gun industry likes to do. We've got some epic hoodies and t-shirts available on our website, exoduscompanies.com. They speak that message to culture. They speak the values that we believe we are missing in our culture. And I promise you, as you wear them out and about in public, you will have ass. As you are out and about in public, people will be asking you about the apparel, but not in a weird way, not in a way where people get offended by what you're wearing. It will genuinely trigger authentic conversations, which was the entire goal of the apparel that we released on the Exodus Companies. That is a small way that you can support us. We have sticker packs, hoodies, and t-shirts currently. And also, as always, check out all of the other brands, TA Targets, Arcane, and Lantern. Do it now. For the culture and the asses.